Really bad girl just followed me on Instagram, so I'm pretty hyped. I was in a bad mood for most of today, but Thank you guys for tuning into today's session. Topic of today's video: reinventing yourself to fit into new social scenarios. Very ambiguous topic. Some of you might agree, some of you might disagree. I don't really care. You're gonna agree with me by the end of this video. I don't care. I wonder if the microphone is picking up on the birds outside. Since it's spring now and you know everything comes back to life. There's birds circling around my apartment, which is both a positive and a negative. Positive, there's finally some life, around here. Negative, they be making hella noise. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, I reread the title of this video. I have it written down. It's called Reinventing Yourself If They Don't Like You. I had this thought while I was at the gym earlier, and basically what I mean is whenever you enter a new social situation where you're meeting people who you haven't met before, or maybe act in a way which you aren't used to, changing your core personality or your core morals is completely okay and is something that I would very much advise. A lot of people have this thing where they're kind of tied down to who they think they are as a person. For example, if they were to enter a new sort of group hangout where they aren't really used to the beliefs of this certain group, right? They're kind of used to the beliefs of, groups which they've hung out with in the past, and now all of a sudden they're transferred to this new situation where there's a completely different moral, grounding or basis on life. They won't connect as well with this group because they'll be clinged onto the fact that they have other morals which don't align with the new people's morals. What I'm proposing is lying about your morals and saying you have the morals of group B when in reality you have still retained some of the morals from group A. And see, this may sound negative, but this is the way it works in the beginning, and then when you've hung out with group B enough, these morals which you are kind of like faking are going to become the morals which you begin to adhere to. Now this happens because the more you hang out with certain people, the more you become like them. If you're going to hang out with a group full of artists, you're going to eventually become more artistic. This is a scenario which I apply to myself. I used to hang out with people who were very, how should I say this, sort of not really old fashioned, but they were more leaning towards the conservative side. They were very business oriented. They wanted to make money. Basically the Andrew Tate scam, how everybody wanted to make a business and become super rich and live in Dubai. I was hanging out with those kinds of people, not by choice, but by, you know, because I lived in an area where that was the norm and those were the morals which most people adhere to. And, I obviously don't have those morals by myself, but because of me hanging out with those people, they kind of began influencing me in ways which wouldn't have happened if I hadn't hung out with them. Now, not in any like adherently negative ways, but it was more kind of small things which I began picking up on. For example, I had never really been into business or making money in that sense, but the more I hung out with these people, the more I began to, get this idea like, maybe I should start a business. Maybe I should, tap into the business side of life. Maybe I want to get my band up. So that's what I did. I had maybe like two marketing businesses over the course of 1.5 years. It's pretty funny actually. The first one I tried starting, it was called AIM Management, and I remember I was on LinkedIn, right? And I was about 16 at the time, and I didn't really understand how LinkedIn worked, and I had watched this video on YouTube regarding managing a social regarding managing a marketing agency, and it said you needed sort of a consultant to sort of, I can't remember exactly what it was about, but you needed another person to do something for you. Now this was in retrospect terrible advice because you can technically do a marketing agency by yourself. It'll be harder, but I feel like most people watching the YouTube video I did weren't really in a situation where they were able to hire someone. But me being 16, I was like, fuck, I gotta hire a consultant, man. I gotta hire a consultant. I went on LinkedIn and I posted a job application for something regarding my marketing agency. I didn't really, I had no idea what I was doing. Basically, an hour after I had posted it, about 10 people had applied to work for me. And one of them was this Iranian woman. I forgot her name, but she basically texted me this very convincing message that she was basically the best consultant in the world. And I was like, yo, hell freaking yeah, man, this is going to be lit. So I start texting back and forth with her. I'm kind of explaining to her what I want her to do for my marketing agency. And she's going, yeah, yeah, yeah. but we should do it this way instead. And I was like, I was pretty impressionable at the time. I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I guess you probably know better than I do. I wasn't really taking an alpha position at the time. I was kind of just letting her take advantage of me. Shout out to the last video. So me and her end up negotiating prices, right? Because I kind of knew in the beginning, like obviously I have to pay her, but I had hoped I could pay her after I had gotten the money for the work she would have done for me, because that would have made everything so much simpler. But now I realize that's obviously not how it was going to work. So we came to the sensible amount of $200. She knew I was 16, but so most likely she was probably trying to scam me. But we ended up agreeing on $200, and I was like, okay, how do I send you money if you're in Iran? And she's like, download this app, my friend. So I downloaded the app. But then when I started looking at all, the Iranian payment methods, I was like, maybe this isn't very optimal. So I told her, okay, I'm gonna need about a week to think about this. And she was like, okay, my friend. So a week goes by and I just block her on everything. And that was the last time I ever used LinkedIn. I actually still have a profile on LinkedIn. A lot of people can look me. If you look up my full name, my LinkedIn profile comes up, and it's how I looked when I was 16 and when I was talking to the Iranian woman about my marketing agency. Good luck finding it. I'm not telling you guys my last name. Anyways, I might. You never know. Yeah. So during this time, I was hanging out with people who were really into this sort of business space, but I don't know. First of all, I realized I hated them all. Like, they weren't my people at all. I hated them, and I wanted nothing to do with them, and I still hate them. So if you're watching this, fuck you. So I ended up moving towns, and this is where I was talking about earlier. I moved to friend group B, right? Which are the people I choose to surround myself with nowadays. People who I love and who I really appreciate taking me in under their wings. But obviously, I couldn't really retain the sort of values that I had from the other friend group in my new friend group, because it would kind of clash just moral wise. So what I did was I changed all my core beliefs and morals to better fit in this new scenario and society, which is what I recommend to all of you out there who are going into a new situation and don't really know how to best apply yourself to certain groups of people. My advice would be, look at the way they act, look at the people who you want to be friends with, look at how they act, sort of study them from afar, make silly remarks here and there. And by the end of, in about a week or so, you should have all of their personalities kind of jammed into your head somehow. And then basically what you do is you kind of start soft launching yourself into them. And basically what you want to do is just mirror their personality a tiny bit, because people love themselves. And if you're like them, then they're going to like you. And then once you've woven yourself enough into the group, then you can establish yourself as the leader and have them do whatever. But yeah, that's how you become friends with people. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people kind of see this. This is what I don't get. It's like, when you look at it, at least this is what it's like for me. When you look at it, okay, let's say school, for example, because I'm in school. Most people watching this, I assume, are in school. When you're in school, at least for me, it's very easy to see like this sort of separation between groups of people. Like, you got, okay, I'm not gonna, it's not this, generic, but you got like the artsy people, you got the Christian people, you got the nerds, all the little subcategories of people. And me, myself, I've been a part of a lot of groups, and I've kind of jumped in between, and I'm friends with people in this group who hate people in this group, but I've changed myself so much that I can kind of I can merge myself in between this. I can be friends with both of them. And this is what I don't understand why more people don't do, because it is so easy to just completely change who you are as a person, and it won't affect you at all. Because a lot of people have this, thing where they'll be so tied down to who they think they are right now at the crispy age of 18. So when I tell people that they should change their morals and just like low-key not really care, they'll be like, nah, I wouldn't change my morals for anything. If I got into a situation where they're questioning my beliefs, I'm leaving. You can still have your beliefs and just lie. You do realize that. Like, it's really not that deep. Here are the benefits. Networking, you get more people who may become famous in the future and who you can leech money off. You get higher up in the social hierarchy of whatever school you're going to, because everybody knows that the more friends you have, the more popular you are, and the more popular you are, the better you are. 3, more hangouts. You can hang out with more people. 4, obviously I don't have all the answers, but there's so many positives to being able to change who you are as a person that I very much recommend it. I have this friend, right, who I would say his core personality isn't who he presents himself to be. But also, core personality is kind of bullshit, because people like to pretend that they are a set way when in, let's say, 10 years from now, they're most likely going to be a completely different person. There's no point in tying yourself down to a specific set of moral beliefs right now when you have so much developing to do that you're probably not even going to believe what you believe right now in a year. I remember I changed so much from when I moved back from Bali, the town I went to, when I moved from that town to where I am now, I did a whole 360 of my personality. Like obviously I still retained some of my like the personality I had built up in Bali because I feel like that is my truest self for now. And then I took that truest self and I reconstructed it into the person I am right now. And so it fits in better and is better adapted to the situation I'm in at the moment, like the social situation and just my environment at the moment. Back to my friend, right? Um, he presents himself as being this very typical Swedish guy. Like he wears this kind of, the quarter zips. He got the gay little skinny jeans on. Kind of old money, kind of, if you're not Swedish, it's hard to explain, but basically think Stockholm style. Like he's got the Stockholm style going. Now, what I very much did not expect from this guy the first time I met him was that his favorite bands were like hardcore, like I was about to say death metal, but I realized a lot of my friends are very much into death metal, and if I said Iron Maiden was death metal, I'd probably be lynched. But he's like into things like Iron Maiden. I don't know if you guys know, but In Flames, Black Sabbath, a lot of these like a lot of these typical bands which you wouldn't really associate with the oh my holy voice crack. A lot of the bands which you wouldn't typically associate with the typical Swedish guy or the typical Stockholm style guy, right? Well, I could be completely wrong here, but I feel like he's a perfect example of someone who kind of didn't really change. I mean, no, he's a perfect example actually. Now that I think about it, holy shit! Never mind whatever I was about to say. He is a perfect example of someone who has adapted his personality to fit in with the social situation which he is in, because had he been raised in an area with more alternative people and more like like emo goth, all that, he would have probably been a more true version to himself, given as I don't know if you guys will agree with me, but I feel like the music you listen to determines a lot about your personality. So if we apply that to him, he probably would have fit better in with more alternative people, given that he listens to Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, all that stuff. But now that he has grown up in like some small village in southern Sweden, he's had to conform to this, Stockholm style, Swedish style system. Honestly, he's a pretty, I was about to shit talk him, but no, never mind. He's a role model. He's exactly who I'm gonna tell him this. No, he's so smart. Damn. Basically, what I'm saying is I can't change, but for you, I would do things. Let me spin the block back to Bali, right? Because as I stated earlier, Bali is the place where I think, or where I believe at this current moment, is the place where I believe I developed the fundamentals of who I am as a person. Because a lot of the things that I learned from Bali, personality wise, are still things that apply to me today. I feel like Bali was just the place where okay, obviously some of your personality has to do with genetics, like you're genetically coded to act a certain way. It's proven actually. The way you're raised has very little effect on how you turn out as a person. It's nearly all genetics. Obviously there's, certain things which impact it, but it's mostly all genetics. You can look it up. The 30% that isn't genetics, I feel, was molded by who I was able to be when I was in Bali, because I feel like there I could really do anything that I ever wanted to do at that time, and being given so much freedom to be exactly who I wanted to be, it really, set who I was gonna be in stone, right? So even though I was just rambling about how I'm probably not going to be the same person now, or how you're probably not going to be the same person now as you're going to be in 5 years, you are probably going to retain some sort of character from from the way you were raised or crucial moments in your life. Come on. Anyways, guys, short little rant today. I gotta go eat food now. I hope you all have a blessed evening.